Oh hi, I didn't see you there. I'm just admiring the new M1 MacBook Air. In a year filled with many One More Thing event, Apple fans were extra thrilled by the release of the M1 processor in its MacBooks. Although the actual design of the MacBook Air hasn't changed, M1 processor promises to turn this lightweight model into a serious workhorse. Let's take a look at a few reasons why I think this is a major breakthrough for MacBook Air. In the year 2020, only Apple had the nerve to release laptops with its own chips. With Big Sur, users can now run iOS apps on MacBooks with desktop experience. But Apple's legendary tight integration of software and hardware ensures M1 and Big Sur is more than just running iOS apps on MacBooks. Apple opted for system-on-chip design for its M1 processor. This means all related components such as memory, security, and processor are all in the same unit. This saves cost and improves performance while consuming less power. M1 chip is based on ARM technology, which has taken a backseat compared to Intel's core CPU architecture. This chip is based on a 5nm platform with 16 billion transistors. While M1 is single-threaded, it can process 8 instructions per cycle. This means this processor can do a ton of work even at low clock speed. The 16-core neural engine can crunch 11 trillion operations per second compared to 5 trillion on iPhone's A12 chip. If you want to learn more about the M1 design, check out this excellent video by Shodt of Engadget. Typically, performance improvement and speed comes at the expense of battery life, but tight integration of system-on-chip design of M1 delivers excellent battery life without compromise. For this review, I'm using an M1 MacBook Air with 16GB of RAM, 8-core CPU, and 256GB of SSD. First benchmark test I ran is Geekbench 5, which runs natively on M1 processor. It scored 1727 on a single core, while a whopping 7255 on multi-core tests. Amazingly, this fanless MacBook Air performs nearly as good as a 13-inch MacBook Pro, which scores 1707 in single core and 7337 in multi-core processor test. The second test is by Cinebench R23. This version is also optimized for Apple's M1 chip, which means it runs natively on the processor itself. In the single core category, it scores 1488 points, which is at the second position of the best 12 processors who ran this test. In the multi-core processor test, it scores 6,327 points. It comes in at the 8th position compared to the top 12 processors who ran this test. To be clear, M1 MacBooks perform best with software optimized for its M1 chip architecture. All of Apple's software are already optimized, and more third-party software will be released in the coming months. If an application is not optimized for M1, it will run through Apple's Rosetta 2 emulator. Microsoft O365 apps are already optimized for M1. In my limited use, I did not notice any significant speed bump while using Word or PowerPoint. I used Davinci Resolve to edit all my videos. They released M1 optimized version 17.1, which saw a huge performance improvement while running on this MacBook Air. One of my most favorite YouTuber, MrAlexTech, has performed an in-depth review of Davinci Resolve running on MacBook Air. I'm going to link it here so you can take a look at it. Imagine how fast the Premiere Pro and Photoshop and Lightroom will be once it's optimized for M1. For the first time ever, you can do serious creative work on a MacBook Air, and that's a huge deal. Let's talk about battery life. I usually get 16 hours of active use from the MacBook Air between charges, which lasts me about 2 days. My usage includes Safari with about 10 or so tabs open, various chat apps, light editing on Adobe Photoshop, video editing on Davinci Resolve, Apple Mail, and a few other tools. It usually takes about 2 hours and 44 minutes to get a full charge on the MacBook Air using the included 30-watt USB-C power adapter, hitting about 50% in 65 minutes. If you have a more powerful charger, you will be able to shave off 30 minutes from the charging time. About the design. The new M1 MacBook has the same fingerprint sensor and power button, Apple's new good keyboard, and its large, best-in-class trackpad as the previous version. The speakers are decent but not exceptional. Display is bright and crisp despite having a bigger bezel compared to other Ultrabooks in the market. The 720p webcam is slightly better too, but is still poor compared with those on iPads and iPhones and some rival laptops, which is a real shame. So here are some of my final thoughts after using this device for more than a month. The MacBook Air could really do with more than 2 ports, especially one on the either side. The bezel could be a little bit smaller, the webcam is so-so, and there's no Face ID. Not all software are optimized for M1, and some will not even work. So make sure you check with the developer before you make a purchase decision. Despite all of these, Apple's M1 has brought a new era in personal computing. This is just the first version of M1. It'll keep getting better with every release, and I'm really excited to see what Apple has in store. Other chip manufacturers are now feeling the pressure to improve their design to keep up. As consumers, we all benefit from this healthy competition. Best of all, I appreciated working on the MacBook Air while it remained quiet and cool to the touch, even while it was pushed to the limits. If you are a student looking to do your schoolwork or a digital artist looking to carry a lightweight but capable device, make sure M1 MacBook Air is at the top of your list. So there you have it, guys. That's a quick look at the M1 MacBook Air. Let me know in the comment section below if you are going to be buying this device or if you have any questions about it. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like and subscribe to the channel below so that I can make more videos like this. Until the next time, this is Sharif from Life Reviews.